my channel, KDev. Today and so forth, we'll be going through the Free Code Camp curriculum. And today, we'll be starting out with Responsive Web Design Certification, 300 hours. This is our very first module, and we'll be attacking the basic HTML and HTML5 course. So let's go on to the first challenge. Say hello to HTML element. Welcome to Free Code Camp's HTML coding challenges. This will walk you through web development step by step. First, you'll start by building a simple web page using HTML. You can edit code in your code editor, which is embedded into this web page. Do you see the code in your code editor that says h1 hello h1? That's an HTML element. Most HTML elements have an opening tag and a closing tag. Opening tags look like this. Closing tags look like this. The only difference between the opening and closing tags is the / after the opening bracket of a closing tag. Each challenge has tests you can run at any time by clicking the Run Tests button. When you pass all tests, you will be prompted to submit your solution and go to the next coding challenge. To pass a test on this challenge, change your h1 elements text to say hello world. Alright, so it looks like we already have hello here. Let's just add the word world and then run the tests. And nice, we're done with the first challenge. Submit and go to next exercise. Headline with the h2 element. Over the next few lessons, we will build an HTML5 cat photo web app piece by piece. The h2 element you will be adding in this step will add a level 2 heading to the web page. This element tells the web browser about the structure of your website. H1 elements are often used for main headings, while H2 elements are generally used for subheadings. There are also H3, H4, H5, and H6 elements to indicate different levels of subheadings. Add an H2 tag that says cat photo app to create a second HTML element below your hello world H1 element. So below H1 element, let's create an H2 tag that says cat photo app. Close it, run the test. Nice. Inform with the paragraph element. P elements are the preferred element for the paragraph text on websites. P is short for paragraph. You can create a paragraph element like this. Create a P element below your H2 element and give it the text hello paragraph. As a convention, all HTML tags are written in lowercase. For example, this and not this. Alright, let's create an opening P tag. Say hello paragraph. Close it, and then run the test. Oops, make sure this is a P closing tag. Run the test. Alright. fill in the blank with placeholder text. Web developers traditionally use lorem ipsum text as placeholder text. The lorem ipsum text is randomly scraped from a famous passage by Cicero of ancient Rome. Lorem ipsum text has been used as placeholder text by typesetters since the 16th century, and this tradition continues on the web. Well, web century is long enough. Since we are building a cat photo app, let's use something called kitty ipsum text. Alright, replace the text inside your P element with the very first few words of this kitty ipsum text. So I'm going to copy all the way up to the period. Looks like, and then I'm going to be deleting the content of the paragraph tag and then paste it using Ctrl V or Command V, and then run the test. Nice! Uncomment HTML. Commenting is a way you can leave comments for other developers within your code without affecting the resulting output that is displayed to the end user. Commenting is also a convenient way to make code inactive without having to delete it entirely. Comments in HTML start with this and end with this. Uncomment your H1, H2, and P elements. Alright, so we're starting the comment here. Let's delete this line, and then we don't need this line anymore. Otherwise, it will be showing here on the screen. Let's make sure to delete line 7, and then run the test. Boom! Moving on. Comment out HTML. Remember that in order to start a comment, you need to use this, and to end the comment, you need to use this. Here, you will need to end the comment before your H2 element. So, comment out your H1 element and your P element, but not your H2 element. So it looks like H1 element is already commented out, and we don't want to comment out H2 element. So let's make sure that we finish the comment here by giving this tag, and then because we want to leave it here, let's start the comment here on line 5. So do a bracket, and then bang, dash dash. And now they're all gone except cat photo app. Run the test. Cool. Delete HTML elements. Our phone doesn't have much vertical space. Let's remove the unnecessary elements so we can start by building our cat photo app. Delete your H1 element so we can simplify our view. Alright, so let's go ahead and delete our H1 element. I'm going to do Ctrl X to cut the line, and that should do it. Run the test. Cool. Submit and go to the next challenge. Introduction to HTML5 elements. HTML5 introduces more descriptive HTML tags. These include main, header, footer, nav, video, article, section, and others. These tags give you a descriptive structure to your HTML, make your HTML easier to read, and help with search engine optimization, SEO, and accessibility. The main HTML5 tag helps search engines and other developers find the main content of your page. Example usage: a main element with 2 child elements nested inside it. Many of the new HTML5 tags and their benefits are covered in the Applied Accessibility section. Create a second P element with the following kitty ipsum text. Alright, so I'll be copying everything all the way up to period because create out here, copy, and then I'll be creating a second P element, paste it, and then close it. Then create a main element and nest only the two p elements inside the main element. Alright, let's create a main element here and then close it at the bottom so that it is nesting the p elements. Alright, some equal next challenge. Alright, add images to your website. You can add images to your website by using the image elements. Alright, some equal next challenge. And then close it. Then create a main element. And nest only the two p elements inside the main element. Alright, let's create a main element here and then close it at the bottom so that it is nesting the p elements. Alright, some equal next challenge. Alright, add images to your website. You can add images to your website by using the image element and point to a specific image's URL using the source attribute. An example of this would be this. Note that image elements are self-closing. All image elements must have an alt attribute. The text inside an alt attribute is used for screen readers to improve accessibility and is displayed if the image fails to load. Note, if the image is purely decorative, using an empty alt attribute is the best practice. Ideally, the alt attribute should not contain special characters unless needed. Let's add an alt attribute to our image example above. That looks like this. Let's try to add an image to our website. Within the existing main element, insert an image tag or image element before the existing p element. Alright, so right here, I'll be adding an image tag. It's self-closing, so you don't need a closing image tag, like you see here. Now set the source attribute to that it points to URL, so I'll copy and paste. Before you paste it, make sure you give the source attribute equal sign, double quotation. Finally, don't forget to give your image element an alt attribute with applicable text. So I'll say alt equals adorable cat. Run the test. Moving on. Alright, link to external pages with anchor element. You can use a element to link to content outside your web page. A elements need a destination web address called an href attribute. They also need anchor text. Here's an example. Then your browser will display the text that this links to FreeCodeCamp.org as a link you can click. And that link will take you to the web address here. Create an A element that links to this link. I want to copy it and has cat photos as its anchor text. Alright, so let's go ahead and create an anchor tag. The attribute is called href equal sign the item that I just copied, close it, and then get photos as the anchor text, and then really close it with the anchor tag. Alright, run the test. Boom. And then alright, ask me later. Link to internal sections of a page with anchor elements. Elements can also be used to create internal links to jump to different sections within the web page. To create an internal link, you'll assign a link's href attribute to a hash symbol plus the value of the id attribute for the element that you want to internally link to. Usually further down the page, you then need to add the same id attribute to the element you're linking to. An id is an attribute that uniquely describes an element. Below is an example of an internal anchor link and its target element. When users click the context link, they'll be taken to the section of the web page used with the context heading element. Now, change your external link to an internal link by changing the href attribute to footer, hash footer, and the text from cat photos to jump to the bottom. Alright, so over here I will be removing this href value here, give it a hash, footer, the anchor text is going to be jump to bottom. Remove the target blank attribute from the anchor text since this causes the linked document to open in a new window tab. Then add an ID attribute with the value of footer to the footer element at the bottom of the page. ID footer without hash. Run the test, submit and go to the next challenge. Nest an anchor element within a paragraph.
footer.
Can nest links with your other text elements like this. Let's break down the example. Normal text is wrapped in the P element. Next is the anchor element, which requires a closing tag. Target is an anchor tag attribute that specifies where to open the link. The value blank specifies and open the link to a new tab. The href is an anchor tag attribute that contains the URL address of the link. The text link to within the A element is called anchor text and will display the link to click. The final output of the example will look like this. Alright, nest the existing A element within the new P element. Alright, so I'll create a new P element here and I'm going to nest the A element under it. Do not create a new anchor tag. The new paragraph should have text that says view more kept photos. The kept photos is a link, and the rest is plain text. Alright, so we already have kept photos here. So now all we gotta do is just add view more. And look. It's like it worked. Run the test. Nice. Make dead links using the hash symbol. Sometimes you want to add a element to your website before you know where they will link. This is also handy when you're changing the behavioral link using JavaScript, which we'll learn about later. The current value of the href attribute is a link that points to this link. Replace the href attribute value to a hash, also known as a hash symbol, to create a dead link. Alright, so let's go ahead and remove the value and then just insert a hash symbol and run the test. Cool. Turn on image into a link. You can make elements into links by nesting them within an A element. Nest your image within an A element. Here's an example. Remember to use hash as your A element's href property in order to turn it into a dead link. Place the existing image element within an A element. Once you've done this, hover over your image with your cursor. Your cursor's normal pointer should become the link clicking pointer. The photo is now a link. Alright, so we're going to place the existing image element within a element here. So I'm going to be deleting this text here, kept photos. And then I'll be copying this image tag here, delete it, and paste it, nest it under a tag. Cool. You can see the cursor changed to a pointer from the test. Cool. Submit and go to the next challenge. We're halfway done. Create a bulleted unordered list. HTML has special element for creating unordered list or bullet point style list. Unordered lists start with an opening UL element followed by any number of li elements. Finally, unordered lists close with UL. For example, this would create a bullet point style of list of milk and cheese. Remove the last two P elements, then create an unordered list of three things that cats love at the bottom of the page. Alright, so let's remove this. Create an unordered list. And then we'll nest li tags here with three things that cats love. So cats love to nap. Cats love to eat catnip. Alright, what else? Cats love to roam. We have three items here now. Run the test. Boom. Created an order list. HTML has a special element for creating ordered list or numbered list. Ordered lists start with an opening OL element followed by any number of li elements. Finally, ordered lists are closed with the OL tag. For example, this would create a number list of Garfield and Sylvester. Create an ordered list of the top three things cats hate the most. Alright, I guess we put it on the down here. So it will be OL, OL. cat say maybe dogs, maybe. Ally, maybe they hate strangers. What else do they hate? They also might hate dirty houses. Cool. We will run the test. Alright. Create a text field. Now let's create a web form. Input elements are a convenient way to get input from your user. You can create a text input like this. Note that input elements are self-closing. Create an input element of type text below your list. Alright, I'll create one right here. Input type text. Run the test. Cool. Hasta la vista, challenge. Add placeholder text to a text field. Placeholder text is what is displayed in your input element before your user has inputted anything. You can create placeholder text like so. Remember that input elements are self-closing. Set the placeholder value of your text input to cat photo URL. Alright, so let's add placeholder inside the input element. Let's say cat photo URL. Test. Way cool. Create a form element. You can build web forms that actually submit data to a server using nothing more than pure HTML. You can do this by specifying an HTML attribute, action attribute on your form element. For example, nest the existing input element inside a form element and assign, I'm going to be copying this to the action attribute of your form element. Alright, so let's create a form element here. Nest the input element. Make sure this form element has an attribute called action. I'll be pasting what I just copied. Nice. Alright, so add a submit button to a form. Let's add a submit button to your form. Clicking this button will send the data from your form to the URL you specify with your form's action attribute. Here's an example submit button. Add a button as the last element of your form element with the type of submit and submit as its text. Alright, so before the form tag ends, we'll create a button. Type of submit. Make sure you give it a text of submit. And close it. Nice. There's no spoon. You use HTML5 to require a field. You can require specific form fields so that your user will not be able to submit your form until he or she has filled it out. For example, if you wanted to make a text input field required, you can add the attribute required within your input element like this. Make your text input a required field so that your user can submit the form without completing this field. Then try to submit the form without inputting anything. See how your HTML5 form notifies you that the field is required. Alright, let's add a required field at the end of the input element here, and we'll try to submit it. And wow, please fill out this field. Cool, looks like it's working. Your powers combined. Create a set of radio buttons. You can use the radio buttons for questions where you want the user to only give you one answer out of multiple options. Radio buttons are a type of input. Each of your radio buttons can be nested within its own label element. By wrapping an input element instead of a label element, it will automatically associate the radio button input with the label element surrounding. All related radio buttons should have the same name attribute to create a radio button group. By creating a radio group, selecting any single radio button will automatically deselect the other buttons within the same group, ensuring only one answer is provided by the user. Here's an example of radio button. It is considered best practice to set a for attribute on the label element with the value that matches the value of the ID attribute of the input element. This allows assistive technologies to create a linked relationship between the label and the related input element. For example, we can also nest the input element within the label tags. Add a pair of radio buttons to your form, each nested in its own label element. Okay, so over here, I'll be creating a label. Close this label here. I'll create another label. Close this label. We're going to create an input of type of radio. Cool. And then we'll also create an input type of radio. Alright, one should have the option of indoor and other should have option of outdoor. Alright, let's add the text indoor here to the first radio. And say outdoor here at the bottom. Both should share the name attribute of indoor dash outdoor to create a radio group. Alright, so over here in each boxes, let's do name and pass in the value of indoor outdoor. Over here as well, give it name indoor and indoor dash out. And now that we run the test, wow, it worked surprisingly well. So we'll submit and go to the next challenge. So the next challenge is create a set of checkboxes. So forms commonly use checkboxes for questions that may have more than one answer. Checkboxes are a type of input. Each of your checkboxes can be nested within its own label element. By wrapping an input element inside of a label element, it will automatically associate the checkbox input with the label element surrounding it. All related checkbox inputs should have the same name attribute. It is considered best practice to explicitly define the relationship between a checkbox input and its corresponding label by setting the for attribute on the label element to match the ID attribute of the associated input element. Here is an example of a checkbox. Add to your form a set of 3 checkboxes. Each checkbox should be nested within its own label element. All 3 should share the name attribute of personality. Alright, so I am going to create a label element here. Label element, close it. Add an input type of checkbox. And have a name attribute of personality. So because I don't want to duplicate this effort, I want to be copying, pasting it twice. Cool. All we gotta do now is we gotta give it some text here. I'll just give it a random text, just say some colors. So red, green, and blue. And let's run the test. And nice, here we got them. Use the value attribute with radio buttons and checkboxes. So when the form gets submitted, the data is sent to the server and includes entries for options selected. Inputs of type radio and checkbox report their values from the value attribute. For example, here you have two radio inputs. When the user submits the form when the indoor option is selected, the form data will include the line indoor-outdoor equals indoor. This is from the name and value attributes of the indoor input. If you omit the value attribute, the submitted form data uses the default value, which is on. In this scenario, if the users click the indoor option and submitted the form, the resulting form data should be indoor, outdoor, on, which is not useful. So the value attribute needs to be set to something to identify the option. Give each of the existing radio and checkbox inputs the value attribute. Do not create any new radio or checkbox element. Use the input label text in lowercase as the value for the attribute. Alright, so over here we have a radio button. Let's give the value of indoor, all lowercase, because the value is indoor. Over here, value of outdoor. Over here, value of loving. Over here, value of lazy. Alright, ludicrous speed, go. Check radio buttons and checkboxes by default. You can set a checkbox or radio button to be checked by default using the checked attribute. To do this, just add the word checked to the instead of an input element. For example, set the first of your radio buttons and the first of your checkboxes to both the checked by default. Alright, so the first radio button is right here. So let's make sure this is checked. Last radio button is right here, so let's make sure that this is checked as well. Run it. Oops. Alright. Make sure I am selecting the right. Nest many elements box and do checked. Looks like it worked. Bullseye. Nest many elements within a single div element. The div element, also known as the division element, is a general purpose container for other elements. The div element is probably the most commonly used HTML element of all. Just like any other non-self-closing element, you can open a div element with div and close it on another line with the div. Next, your things cats love and top 3 things cats hate list, all within a single div element. Okay, so right here, I am going to be creating a div and I'll close it here. Hint, try putting your opening div tag above your things cats love p element and your closing div tag after your closing OL tag so that both of your lists are within one div. And that is exactly what I did. Alright, declare the doc type of an HTML document. The challenges so far have covered specific HTML elements and their uses. However, there are a few elements that give overall structure to your page and should be included in every HTML document. At the top of your document, you need to tell the browser which version of HTML your page is using. HTML is an evolving language and is updated regularly. Most major browsers support the latest specification, which is HTML5. However, older web pages may use previous versions of the language. You tell the browser this information by adding this tag on the first line, where the dot part is the part of the version of HTML. For HTML5, you use this. The bang in uppercase doc type is important, especially for older browsers. The HTML is not case sensitive. Next, the rest of your HTML code needs to be wrapped in HTML tags. The opening HTML goes directly below the doc type HTML line, and the closing HTML goes at the end of the page. Here's an example of the page structure. Your HTML code should go in the space between the 2 HTML tags. Add a doc type tag for HTML5 to the top of the blank HTML document in the code editor. Under it, add opening and closing HTML tags, which wrap around an H1 element. The heading can include any text. Alright, so I'm going to be copying and pasting over here. And then just add an H1 tag here. I'll just say hello world and close it. That should work. Thank you, the work is already done for me. Woohoo! Add an H1 tag here. I'll just say hello world and close it. That should work. Thank you, the work is already done for me. Woohoo! Define the head and body of an HTML document. You can add another level of organization in your HTML document within the HTML tags with the head and body elements. Any markup with information about your page should go into the head tag. Then any markup with the content of the page, what displays for user, would go into the body tag. Metadata elements such as link, meta, title, and style typically go inside the head element. Here's an example of a page's layout. Edit the markup so that there is a head and a body. The head element should only include the title, and the body element should only include the H1 and P. Okay, so over here, under HTML, we'll be creating a head tag. Next, the title tag. Close it. And then you want to create a body tag. And then the body tag before the HTML tag. Run the test. And here we are done.